Hello, it's Richard again. My third video on repairing some old video Genie TRS-80 compatible computers. In my last couple of videos I diagnosed two of these faulty computers and worked out what was wrong with the CPU boards. It was two dead Z80 chips, and on one of them it was some dead SRAM in the video memory. Which are these dead chips over here. So I've now got two brand new Z80 processors and some 5 new old stock SRAM. I've already tested out the SRAM because it came without anti-static protection, so I thought, well, I'll test that as soon as I get it. Those will work fine. Haven't tested the Z80s yet, but I'm sure they're fine because they're brand new from RS Components. So today I'm going to be looking at the cassette interface on this machine. It turned out the power supply for the cassette interface wasn't putting out enough voltage, and I narrowed that down from the schematic to this corner of the board. I've already taken this board off, it's basically a power transistor, a transistor, capacitor, a couple of resistors, and what I think is probably a Zener diode. That's a bit unclear. From the schematic it looks like a Zener. From the parts list it doesn't. It's got a random part number that I can't find anywhere on the internet. But then it's also got a Zener diode of the right kind of spec listed on the parts list, but I can't find the schematic anywhere, so I think there may be a bit of confusion there. Anyway, I've ordered as many of these components as I can. So over here we have replacement capacitors, replacement transistors, replacement power transistors, and I've got resistors in my box. The only thing I don't have is a Zener diode if that is required. Also got a little part tester, so as I take all the components off I can test whether they're in spec and make sure they agree with schematics. Unfortunately it's arrived with a cracked screen, so only half the screen works. I've applied for a refund for that and I've ordered another one, but it may be good enough for what I need here. So let's have a go at fixing this. So I've got this slightly precariously lifted up here. Annoyingly, this board, the interface board, gets its power from the CPU board. So I've got the ground and 15 volt lines connected up. They're not quite the same connections as DuPont leads, but I can just about get a connection through. But then I've measured the voltage across this capacitor, which should be between the ground and the 9 volt line, and I was getting about 4 volts out of the 9 volt line. I'm now on open circuit, I'm getting something like 14 volts. I'm wondering if that's just because none of the other components are powered up, because they haven't got the data signals coming through, and therefore it's not under load. So I think I should just start replacing components and see where I go. But I'm probably going to have to connect the ribbon cable back on in between each one to check, which is not great because I don't think these are really designed to be plugged and unplugged loads of times, but we'll just see how we get on. I've got this capacitor off and put it into the tester. It's coming out around about 130, 140 microfarads, which and it's supposed to be 100 microfarad, so that's probably not the problem. But since I've got a new one, I might as well put the new one on, see if it makes any difference. That's the new capacitor installed, but while we're there, let's have a look at this transistor as well. So I might be getting something here. I've just removed this transistor. These are the replacement transistors I've bought, which all look good, but if I put in the transistor I've just taken out and do a test on it, it's not looking very healthy. Last time I did this it came up with, I think, 2 diodes. Here we go, it's coming up with 2 diodes. rather than a transistor. So I think this transistor may have failed. So let's put this one in. I've just looked this one up. It's not what's on the parts list. It's NA11, which is completely different to what's on the parts list, but I'm assuming it's the same part. And I've managed to find a vague reference to this from a very old data sheet, and it looks like it's just a generic NPN transistor. So let's put this in, see if that fixes things. Right, so I've now replaced this transistor. Took me a little while to do because I had to figure out the pin out, which just didn't seem to fit the schematic at all. I drew out the schematic myself, though I wasn't trying to thumb through the service manual all the time, and looked up all the components on the parts list and tried to find very old, like 1978 data sheets for them to get the pin outs. And then I followed all the traces on the board here and on the other side to try and figure out the circuit, and I eventually realised the circuit was just wrong. They'd mislabelled these two transistors. They swapped over Q9 and Q10. Once I realised that and swapped them back, it all made a lot more sense, and the pin outs matched the new components I've got. So I soldered in that transistor. This trace lifted slightly, but I've managed to get it connected. I also realised when I tried out the power here and I was getting 14 volts, I thought that was a bit odd. I realised this crocodile clip was shorting out traces. I hadn't realised there were some traces on this side of the board. So I've got those insulated. So let's now see if that's fixed it. Right, moment of truth. Let's turn that on. Now theoretically across this capacitor that I replaced earlier should be 9 volts. So 9.02. That looks excellent. Right, let's reassemble it and see if the cassette deck works now. I'm testing this now, and this is all a bit strange. So I've got this connected up over to the 9 volt rail over there. So I'm getting my 9 volts now. The tape deck doesn't work when it's connected up. I'll just try that. So I've just disconnected that, but when I activate the relay, it drops down to the 4.2 volts I was seeing before. So maybe it wasn't a problem with this this power supply circuit. It just pops back up. And does the same I was just doing here, just using the second cassette port, which activates this relay, and again it drops down to 4.2 volts. So I've had a look at the schematic of what the 9 volt rail is used for, and it delivers power to the cassette deck, but I've got that disconnected. It runs the RF modulator, and it powers these relays, and that's it. So it's when the relay goes, it drops, but it does it with both relays, which suggests it's not a problem with the relay unless they're both there, or maybe the power supply can't deliver enough power. But the only other thing is, this RF modulator, the power supply has been taken off here for this extra mod that I talked about in my previous thing, which I think is a sound mod. So I'm just going to try cutting the power line to that and just see if that fixes the problem, because it may be the power supply can't deliver enough power to that, or maybe there's a fault in that circuit. So let's cut the red wire. Let's go at this near this end and see what happens. Oh, it doesn't want to cut. There we go, so we've cut that. Let's see if that makes any difference. No, so it's nothing to do with that mod. Must be something else. I'm guessing maybe there's still a fault in that power circuit and it can't deliver enough power for the modulator and the relays, or maybe there's a problem with the modulator. Maybe I should just disconnect the TV modulator, given that we'd always want to use it on a monitor anyway rather than a TV. I'll think about this. So I've just tried cutting this red power line to the RF modulator, and sadly it doesn't make any difference. So as we've disconnected the sound mod, disconnected the RF modulator, so the only thing, as far as I can tell, that's being powered by that 9-volt line is that relay. So the power supply just can't supply enough power for that relay. So I'm going to call it a night there. I'm a bit mystified by this. I'm going to have a bit more of a think and see if I can come up with any other ideas. I really don't want to let this defeat me. So yeah, look out for the next video, see if I manage to figure out what's going on with this. Thanks for watching.